This is the GQ Coaches Show with Coaches Goins and Quick, brought to you by the United States Basketball Association, the leader in youth basketball, USBAHoops.com. Now, get ready to chop it up with your hosts, Coaches G and Q, for the real talk in sports.
All right, it's January the 16th. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GQ Coaches Show. This is Coach Goins along with the hottest co-host this side of heaven, and that is Coach Mike Quick. So first of all, we want to say happy heavenly birthday to the one and only Dr. Martin Luther King, observing his birthday today, January the 16th, with actually his birthday is January the 15th. So we honor him and we dedicate this show to Dr. King. Coach Quick, I know you're locked and loaded. We got a barn burner tonight. What is on tap?
Hey, what's going on, Coach G? You want to know what's popping with Coach Q? Well, Coach Q is so excited about our special guest via telephone. I feel like I'm posted up inside Nissan Stadium, the home of the Tennessee Titans, on the 50-yard line, ready to chop it up with a keyboardist and a vocal legend. After this short break, Coach G and I are going to come right back with our special guest, so make sure those sneakers are laced up tight.
You're listening to Coaches G and Q chopping it up.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in. You better make sure you got your popcorn hot and got a side of butter. Coach Quick, what is popping?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others. He is a keyboardist, singer, and songwriter, and he's also an author, but he's a member of the Steve Miller Band. Ladies and gentlemen, put those hands together and welcome to the GQ Coaches Show, Mr. Joseph Wooten.
Hey, everybody, this is Joseph Wooten. I'm so happy to be here with these two great coaches. I love coaches because coaches are leaders of young men, and goodness knows our future needs led young people. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to talk about whatever you want to talk about. You guys are so motivational, got me feel like I want to lace up my sneakers and do some exercise or something.
Watch out.
Yes, sir.
And you know what? We're so excited. And again, everybody, I tell you better call somebody and let them know we've got none other than the legendary keyboardist of the Steve Miller Band and also the Hands of Soul, Mr. Joseph Wooten. Coach Quick, I don't know about you, but I'm having an out of body just because, you know what? I classify Mr. Wooten as a friend of ours. He's been on the podcast. Now he's on the GQ Coaches Show. We're going to be chopping it up. I know you in the laboratory. I know you got some things lined up, and I'm going to kick it over to you so we can get this party started.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wooten, could you tell our listening audience who Joseph Wooten is?
Well, I'm one of the Wooten brothers. There's five brothers, five musical brothers. I'm the keyboard player and the singer. So there's keyboards, bass, drums, guitar. My sax player brother passed away in 2010. But we grew up playing music. We had a record deal in the mid-'80s with Arista Records. We signed at the same time as Whitney, same producer, same label. My brother played drums on Whitney's debut single, You Give Good Love. I watched her sing it and sang with her on a song called Thinking About You on that same album. We're still playing. We're going to be going to Australia this year. We're going to be touring around the country this year. But I also play with the Steve Miller Band. Steve Miller just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016, so that's exciting. We have another tour coming up this summer. He'll be celebrating 50 years in show business this year, and I'll be celebrating 30 years with him. So on March 12th, I will have been with the Steve Miller Band for 30 years. I'm doing some things with the military because we need to honor our military because, you know, they keep us safe so that we can play basketball and we can play sports and we can play music and we can live our lives in relative safety. So I do whatever I can for them. I have a charity called I Matter, You Matter, and we work a lot honoring diversity. We work a lot with worthy young people, but we do a bunch with veterans, especially homeless veterans. So it's just out here trying to use what I'm good at for the right reasons, because goodness knows we need some people that are trying to lead us in the right direction.
Absolutely. I tell you what, Mr. Wooten, as you were sitting here just running that down, man, I'm just having an out-of-body experience, because what an impeccable career to be a part of a musical family, to be able to sing back up with Whitney Houston, to be a part of the Steve Miller Band for 30 years, and they're going to be in show business for 50 years. That's an outstanding body of work.
Yeah.
I tell you, congratulations on your career, and we're looking forward to many, many more.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
You know what, Coach Quick?
Yes, sir.
When Mr. Wooten was laying all of that down, my mind was going is this, okay. So, and I'm not a mathematician by any stretch of the imagination. So folks don't think I'm going here. But if you had to throw out a number, Mr. Wooten, in 30 years, you walk in the venue, you get everything set up, you do the sound check, and just folks, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, Mr. Wooten checked us up tonight and make sure that our sound check was right on time. And I told Coach Quick, I said that only happens because that's what he does. He is a professional, and we appreciate him taking us there. But my question is, you stand there behind your keyboards for 30 years. What does it take us there? What goes through your mind from the I call it pregame, if you will. So you walk out, you do your sound check, and then you go back, you guys get dressed, and then here you come in to really do the full blown show. What goes through your mind when that curtain opens?
Well, so it's very similar to sports in that you do all the fundamentals and you practice until they become natural, so that you don't have to think about them anymore. So when the curtain opens, at that point, you can just enjoy it and do what comes natural. But doing what comes natural well happens because you've prepared. So it's, I've been playing since I was 5. I'm 61 now. So as my mom would say, I'm not so impressed that they play well. They've been doing that their whole lives. She said, by now they ought to be good at it. That's what my mom used to say. By now they ought to be good at it. But what goes through my mind is less about me and more about like this great situation that I get to be in. Like some artists and musicians get bored because they play the same music all the time. And that can happen if you're thinking about yourself, right? But we play music for other people. And when I think about, it's always exciting to me, like with the Steve Miller Band. We go out, and when we play a song that they're familiar with, they've been waiting for this song for months. They bought their ticket with their hard-earned money weeks ago, months ago, and finally here's that moment where they get a chance to hear the Joker or Take the Money and Run or Fly Like an Eagle. And I get to be a part of delivering all of that joy.
Wow. And
that's the part that never gets old, is making other people happy. Wow. Making other people happy and giving people a break, just giving people a break from life that sometimes is just really hard. It's after COVID, it seems like people enjoy the music a little bit more because they can remember what it was like to have it taken away. So for me, I recognize what a huge privilege it is for me to be able to do what I do for a living, because there's lots of talented people. Plenty of people more talented than me, plenty of people equally talented, whatever. But it's like being a great athlete. There's lots of athletic people, but there's more athletic people than there are slots for athletic people. Same thing with musicians. There's more talented musicians than there are slots for talented musicians. So if you get a chance to play in the NFL or the NBA or the Major League Baseball, if you don't take the time to recognize how privileged you are, then you're missing some of the experience. And I try not to take any of that for granted.
Wow. Coach Quick.
Yes, sir.
I never heard it laid down like that, man. Ever.
Yeah, he's right? Dropping dimes on the show today.
Ever, right? And in my 56 years, all right, Mr. Wooten dated himself, I'm going to date myself. In my 56 years, I've never heard it so eloquently put as it relates to there's only so many slots. And
Right.
what are you doing to constantly home in your skills? You know what? This is excellent. Don't anybody make a move. What we're gonna do, we're gonna step away, pay a few bills, but our very special guest tonight on the GQ Coaches Show is none other than Mr. Joseph Wooten, and we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Pete Chilcutt, North Carolina Tar Heel and NBA champion. You're listening to the GQ Coaches Show on ESPN Radio 1240, The Boss.
The United States Basketball Association, the USBA, was founded in 2005. The USBA has been a leader in grassroots basketball tournaments and camps for boys and girls of all ages across the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. It is our goal to develop young people and equip them with skills that will help them advance both on and off the court. Visit their website at usbahoops.com. Their email is info@usbahoops.com or by telephone at 704-649-6812. All basketball, all the time. And thank you for playing USBA.
Looking for something fun but different to do? Join a group of friends, family, or co-workers to destroy electronics, break some glass, or even throw some axes. At the Havoc House located downtown Waynesboro, Virginia, visit their website at havochouseva.com and book your appointment today.
There's a lot of reasons why people trust Chris Montgomery at Alcova Mortgage. They have a diverse lineup of loan programs. So whether you're looking to buy a home, refinance, or tackle college expenses with your equity, you can put Chris Montgomery at Alcova Mortgage in the game for you. Call 540-290-0558 or go online to alcova.com/C Montgomery.
Hey, this is Chris Spatola, and you're listening to the GQ Coaches Show on ESPN Radio 1240, The Boss, the real talk in sports.
All right, this is Coach Goins, and we are back in. It is hot in here. Okay, I stole a line from Chris Spatola there, Coach Quick. I'm sure you just heard that. But our very special guest via telephone, none other than keyboard artist, Mr. Joseph Wooten. But before we get into that, we got to give a shout out to one of our main guys, and that is none other than Mr. Chris Montgomery of Alcova Mortgage. When it's time to get in the game, call Chris for all of your mortgage needs at 540-290-0558, and we thank him for his continued support. Coach Quick, I'm going to kick it to you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wooten,
Yes.
take this time to reflect on Miss Dorothy and Mr. Elijah Wooten and also your brother Rudy.
Yes.
Take this time to reflect on them, and then we'll come back and get you to talk about your other brothers and the rest of your family.
You got it. I'll try to keep this succinct because there's so much to be appreciative of. But my parents, my dad was born in 1930. My mom was born in 1934. In North Carolina, and they both grew up on farms. Fortunate enough that both of them were to grow up on land that they owned, which is remarkable in itself. In that wasn't. The 30s in North Carolina wasn't a big time of black land ownership. So on my mother's side of the family, her father purchased about 200 acres of land with no schooling, just smarts, toughness, cleared the land himself, raised 13 kids there with my grandmother. And even though they didn't have schooling, they had lots of natural wisdom. One of the biggest ones being the one that we remember the most is my mom used to say to us, when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, you've seen the most important person that you're going to meet that day. And then she would follow it up with, but you're no more important than anybody else. And which is a good thing to tell young kids that are being told how good they are. When they're young. My mom wanted to make sure that wasn't corrupting. She wanted to make sure that we were articulate, that we could stand up for ourselves. That she would say, if you're at school, something's going wrong, she said, call me. When I get there, I'm going to be on your side. She said, but you better be right. But you better be right. And she would. And she would. Something would go wrong. We stand up for ourselves. My mom would come in, and she said it straight. Because as kids going to school in the early 70s, late 60s, mid 70s, there were plenty of racial things going on that my parents understood much deeper than we did. And my mom would come in and straighten it out. She's a great example of wisdom and discipline. If you hear any of my brothers and they start talking philosophically, you're hearing my mom's influence. My dad fought in the Korean War. So he had seen, he had been down in the jungle and seen the thick of it. He had seen fellow white soldiers get medals that the commanding officer didn't mind telling the black soldiers they couldn't get purely because of skin color. And, they had seen, parents had seen lynch mobs and all those things, and they would tell us the stories, but they would make sure that they ended it by telling us, making sure that we knew all white people aren't bad people.
Mm.
Yes, even though, my dad was telling the story of the lynch mob chasing the man, and he runs into the black man runs into the house and hides up the chimney. And the lynch mob member runs in and looks straight at him up the chimney, and then runs back out and says, "There's nobody in here." Saved his life. And my dad told that story more than once because they wanted to make sure that we knew that the world was tough. It's not always going to be on your side. Your skin color is going to matter. But lots of good white people out there. You know what I mean? And you judge people by how they act, not by the color of their skin. They're great. Just both of them were just great examples. Anytime you teach any young person anything that has to do with character, it's not gonna stick unless you're leading by example. And both my parents led by example very well. My brother Rudy passed away in 2010. He was an incredible musician. He used to blow 2 saxophones at once. Really good at it. He used to blow one saxophone played in concert key. The other saxophone played a minor third up. He played an alto and a C melody, and he could blow those horns in thirds. He can blow it, make them play the same note. He can make them play in octaves. He can make them play the correct intervals up the scale. He was just a genius that way, and he was very loving. I say he was so loving. Love was in his middle name. It's like Rudy Lovell Wooten. And but Rudy's an example of how the music business of trying to be successful can be hard on you. He had a soft, tender nature. And when we went and got our record deal, the only thing he ever wanted to do is just play with his brothers. We got the record deal, but because the chief used me and Roy in his band, the other 3 went back to Virginia. Well, the drummer, the lead vocalist, and the keyboard player, if they're in one place, the other 3 brothers can't really play gigs. So that sort of stopped the band from playing, and he took it hard. It worked on his mental capacity, but he never became mean. And he just took it hard. And he passed away in 2010. And so there's a jazz club in Nashville called Rudy's Jazz Room, and they named it after him. The owner of the room used to play music with him and wanted to do something fitting. So the only pure jazz room in Nashville is named after my brother. And yes, it's just a great family to grow up in.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Coach G, I'll kick it over to you.
Well, I tell you what, man. And first of all, Mr. Wooten, we certainly appreciate you going back because I'm a North Carolina guy. Coach Quick is in North Carolina as we speak.
Okay.
And
Yes, sir.
we born and raised, and once you're in North Carolina, it's hard. You can move and you can go other places, but when people find out from you from North Carolina, that is a special place in my heart, and it'll forever. Now I don't care wherever I live, no matter what. I'll tell people, hey, I'm from North Carolina. We certainly appreciate you allowing our listening audience to learn and understand, who you are, where you came from and why you are who you are today. And we want to honor your mother and father and also your brother Rudy. So I want to kind of go here. I know my Steelers are not in the playoffs. I know you know our head coach and the Titans. So let's talk a little bit about the Titans and how and how and why. And you know what, folks? I've seen Mr. Wooten right at the ball game, and he's standing behind the figurine with his head through the hole like he was getting ready to take the field. So if you don't mind, tell everybody how you became a Titans fan and why you have the passion for the game of football.
Okay, well, I lived in Virginia for 18 years. Like I said, both my parents are from North Carolina. But when my dad retired from the military, we lived in Virginia. So from 72 to 90, I lived in Virginia. September the 18th, 1990, I moved to Nashville. When I moved to Nashville, there was no football team. So when we got a football team, by that time I felt like a Tennessean, right? I still had Virginia Virginia was still in my heart, and I got North Carolina in my soul. But I was a resident of Nashville, so Tennessee gets the team. Lo and behold, the first year we get a stadium, we go to the Super Bowl, right? That's like, first year we get a stadium, we go to the Super Bowl. It looks like, man, this is easy. We're going to be in the Super Bowl all the time. The first year, we're going to say. And, of course, we lost to the Rams by that 1 yard on the last play.
Ooh.
So, you're the sports fan, and you goes, well, next year we're going to get over that line. And then the next year, we lost in the in the conference championship. And the next year we lost a game before the conference championship. And then the wheels fell off, right? You realize this is hard. But it's sports. Sports is it can be. Sports is a great thing to be a part of if you keep it in context. If all you're thinking about are wins and losses, your heart will stay broke, right? Because every year, like the Titans lost the first 2 games, went on that 5-game win streak. We looked like we were one of those teams. And then finally the injuries caught up with us. And all those games where we just found a way to win, we were just a little bit below finding a way to lose. Because, for 2 years in a row, we've been the most injured team in history, right? But sports is one of those things. Anything that has to do, any outcome that has to do with opposition always has a temporary outcome. You know what I mean? Because it's not the best way to resolve things unless you're learning a lesson that goes beyond the game, right? That's what makes sports great is the lessons you learn that go beyond the game. Accountability, teamwork, preparation, leadership. All of those things go beyond the game. We want to win, but winning is it's the biggest thing in the moment, but not the biggest thing in the game. We know plenty of people that won that weren't very good people. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
If winning was the only thing that mattered, then cheating would be fine, right?
Wow.
And of course, that's not the case. I like sports because it brings people together. We need more togetherness. Now, the upside of it is when your team is winning, everybody's together. But it's at somebody's expense.
That's exactly right.
Winning is at somebody's expense. It's why I like music better. Because music has all the benefits of winning, but nobody loses. And even if that's not your song, you still know, the person still knows that you did it for them. Nobody gets hurt. That's the part that I like about music. But I love being a citizen of Nashville. I love the fact that it's a city where music, it's primarily a music city. So I love representing Tennessee. I'm mature enough to know that repping Music City, we're not going to win all the time, right? We're not going to win all the time. And when your team loses, it hurts for a minute, but you try to keep it in perspective. The wheels fell off the Titans, but we've had some success here. We were the most injured team in history last year. We had the best record in the AFC. There's nothing to be upset about. We won the division 2 times in a row. We just came short. That's life, right?
Yes, sir.
It's life. You win some, you lose some. What's more important than the wins or losses, and it takes maturity to know this, but what's more important than the wins or losses is the quality of the person that's winning or losing.
Yes.
And if you are learning from your loss, you're winning. You've lost the game in front of you, but you're winning at the most important game, which is the life that you lead. Right? And the reason that we do everything, the reason that we do anything is to learn to be better people. Is learn to be better people. It's like any worthwhile person. MLK, his birthday is just in a couple of days. He wasn't a perfect person. He wasn't a perfect person. It doesn't, perfection is a it's a goal, but it's not a requirement. And because of who he was, because of how he took his losses and his wins, now we have streets named after him, and everybody aspires to be him. Well, that's what sports is for. Through these things that we're good at, same with music. Through our talents, we're there to inspire other people. Not to just inspire them to be talented like us, but to inspire them to be better versions of themselves. And that's the reason I love sports. It's the reason I love coaches. I got a soft spot in my heart for coaches because not everybody's a leader, but we need leaders.
That's right.
We need them. Not everybody's good at it. Not everybody who gets a chance to be a coach is a good coach. But the good ones lead people in the right direction, and that's more of what we need. And maybe it's just because I'm an optimist, but I think with society, we're at an inflection point where we have a chance to really move forward culturally, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think that's also the reason why you're seeing so much unrest, because not everybody wants us culturally to move forward. Some people want things to stay the same. But I say that if it weren't possible for us to be moving forward, if people coming together weren't possible, Martin Luther King would still be alive. There'd be no reason to get rid of him.
Wow.
Right?
Is exactly
so,
right.
Yeah, we are. Culture needs to move forward, and people who are good at something that have it in context have a lot of potential in moving society in the right direction because we have attention. So my mom, going back to my mother, people would say, your sons are so good. Aren't you so proud? And she would say, I'm not proud because they're good. They've been doing it their whole lives. They ought to be good at it by now. That's what she would say. They've been doing it their whole lives. They ought to be good at it by now. But she would say, if you tell me that they inspired you, that makes me proud because that's the part that I worked on. She was less concerned with how good we are and more concerned with who we are being good.
Wow. Absolutely.
Yeah. My last point, I know I'm getting long.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine.
But my mom would check in with us every now and then, especially as we got to be adults. And she was like, what have you been up to? And, young musicians were like, well, I'm practicing X amount of hours a day. I'm running X amount of miles a day. I'm doing so-and-so amount of push-ups a day. And then she let us finish and she'd say, what does any of that have to do with me? And basically what she's asking is, what are you doing for other people? I see what you're doing for you.
Mm.
But what, how is what you're doing going to affect other people? That's more of what I'm concerned with. And, all of my brothers, you talk to all of my brothers, all of them are teachers. All of them want to help other people. All of my brothers are the right kind of person. We're not perfect, but we do things for other people. And that's the legacy. That's the legacy of my mom. We're resilient. That's the legacy of both my parents.
Excellent. Coach Quick.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we close out our game plan segment, who we have on is Mr. Joseph Wooten. He is a keyboardist and a vocalist for the Steve Miller Band. Also, the Hands of Soul. And our game plan segment is brought to you by Chris Montgomery of Alcova Mortgage. When it's time to get in the game, call Chris at 540-290-0558, and we'll be right back.
There's a lot of reasons why people trust Chris Montgomery at Alcova Mortgage. They have a diverse lineup of loan programs. So whether you're looking to buy a home, refinance, or tackle college expenses with your equity, you can put Chris Montgomery at Alcova Mortgage in the game for you. Call 540-290-0558 or go online to alcova.com/C Montgomery.
Looking for something fun but different to do? Join a group of friends, family, or co-workers to destroy electronics, break some glass, or even throw some axes. At the Havoc House located downtown Waynesboro, Virginia, visit their website at havochouseva.com and book your appointment today.
The United States Basketball Association, the USBA, was founded in 2005. The USBA has been a leader in grassroots basketball tournaments and camps for boys and girls of all ages across the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. It is our goal to develop young people and equip them with skills that will help them advance both on and off the court. Visit their website at usbahoops.com. Their email is info@usbahoops.com or by telephone at 704-649-6812. All basketball, all the time. And thank you for playing USBA.
Hey, this is Coach Mike Apple, head men's basketball coach and athletic director of Sand Hills Community College, and you're listening to the GQ Coaches Show, the real talk in sports on ESPN Radio 1240, The Boss.
All right, this is Coach Goins along with Coach Quick and our very special guest via telephone. That's right, via telephone. You heard it. None other than Mr. Joseph Wooten from the Hands of Soul. And if you don't know who Joseph Wooten is, I'm sure you got a computer. You better type it in. And when you type it in, you're going to call Coach Goins and Coach Quick and go, oh, my God, that's exactly right. So listen, as we get into this timeout segment, it's brought to you by the Havoc House of Waynesboro, Virginia. Make your appointment today at 540-447-1362 and come in swinging. Coach Quick, you're locked and loaded. I see you standing at the back of the end zone. What you got?
Yes, sir. Ready to catch this pass for Mr. Wooten. Mr. Wooten, tell us about the time you and your brothers opened up for James Brown and Curtis Mayfield as kids.
Okay, now, when we were kids, we didn't open for James, but we went and saw him. And that was we did open for Curtis Mayfield, I'll tell you about that. But we went and saw James, and my mother especially recognized how important that was for us. Because by then, she could see that we were planning on doing it for real. So we saw James in 1960. I'm sorry. We saw James in 1969, I believe it was. So, I mean, we were young, maybe 69 or 70. But what I remember is we saw James play at the Memorial Auditorium in Sacramento, California, and we were all just floored by how good he was. But as I'm older, I recognize how important that was for my parents, because James was more than an artist in the 60s, when the country was trying to make sure that black people knew that they were not equal. James was a symbol of the fact that wasn't true. So James was a symbol of excellence, even though he made sure that he still sounded like he was from Georgia. He didn't try to talk proper like he was Sammy Davis or nothing. He still sounded like he was from Georgia. But he let you know, like, he didn't have much of an education, but he worked hard. He had a jet with his name on it, though. Right? He was the most dynamic man in show business. He had a jet with his name on it. He represented excellence. He represented hard work, and he was available to his people. That was the other thing. James was also the man that made it not dangerous to proclaim that you were black and proud. Like, black people have always been proud But, for a long while it was dangerous to proclaim it out loud. James made that song, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. That was a big deal. So when he played, I remember my mom came and got Victor and I out of school. I think Victor was in kindergarten, maybe? Yeah, probably was in kindergarten. I was in the 3rd grade. She came and got us out of school. We got in the car. She drove us to this hotel. We knocked on the door, and out walks, Bobby Bird and St. Clair Pinckney and Maceo and Pee Wee Ellis from the horn section. Because her goal was for us to meet James. She just had a feeling of how influential that would be. But we met the band, and the band took some time and talked with us. These kids that they had no idea was coming. Knocked on the door. They were really gracious with us. Now that I'm older, I realize, here's James flying on a private jet, and there's his band 4 to a room, right? but but we did open for Curtis Mayfield in 1972. And we opened for War in 1970, actually. We opened for War in 1970. Victor was 5 years old, just learned to write his name. I was 8. We opened for Curtis Mayfield 2 years later. And that was very instrumental. Two different things. With James, we learned excellence, that dynamic show. Curtis Mayfield, we learned a bunch about music. We learned a bunch about music and how, like, Curtis Mayfield never played loud. His whole thing was content. His lyrics, the words were heavy, the music was excellent, and people actually got quiet to hear everything that he did. So we learned that too. But we also saw Curtis Mayfield play a show. He was playing 2 shows, and we opened for both of them. So we opened for the first show. He was really late. So there was this club, really late, and he played the show. By the time we finished, the club was sold out on the inside. There was a sold-out crowd on the outside waiting to get in. So Curtis plays, and he gets paid, and he leaves. We see him leave. And that sort of put a bad taste in our mouth in terms of business. We saw how not to be. There was a musician back in those days that looked at us, children, and said, you guys need to get out of the business while you're young. And we just thought that was ridiculous because we were already sold. We knew we were going to be doing it for the rest of our lives. But we saw 2 different sides of the business, but we were determined. We were focused. We had great example with us. We weren't like other young musicians that get corrupted by adults. When we were young, our parents were with us. So we inspired each other. Even though we played with older musicians, sometimes our inspiration came from home and came from each other. So it was, we learned a bunch. We learned a bunch, and between seeing James Brown young, between seeing Curtis Mayfield young, and then the example of both our parents and the inspiration from all the brothers, we turned out just fine.
Wow. I tell you what, just to be able to meet James Brown as a youngster and also open up for Curtis Mayfield, two legends for aspiring artists, I know that was very encouraging and very important to you guys.
Yeah, it really was. Now, James had already left. James was going on his jet, but we met his band members. What James used to do, though, talk about hard work. What James used to do, James had 2 bands. And while one band was playing, the other band was traveling. So that he could play almost every night. That particular year, he played 335 dates. But James Brown, again, being more than an artist, what James was doing, what he was attempting to do, James knew that there was a lot of black talent, but black talent couldn't get on white radio. So his plan was, he knew he could do anything if he had enough money. So what James would do was he's like, what am I paying a promoter for? He says, I'm bigger than the promoter. So he'll get a little college dude, that pay him a few $1,000s rather than paying a promoter most of the money. The promoter would promote. When you bought a ticket for James Brown, you were paying James. You weren't paying the promoter.
Wow.
So James, so at the end of it, James was making all of the money almost every night of the year. One band would play, the other band would travel. The next night, the other band would play, the other band would travel. And he'd fly from city to city to city and play every night, trying to buy enough radio stations where black people didn't need white radio.
Wow.
That was his plan. So James, for us, was a great example of being more than an artist, right? It's important to be an artist. It's important to your listener for you to be the right kind of person because you have more influence than the average person. So, James, when Martin Luther King gets shot, James Brown is the reason that Boston doesn't burn to the ground, right? That's because of James. They had a James Brown concert in Boston, and they figured if James Brown was in town, if they televised it, people would either stay home to watch it or go to the concert instead of going to burn the town down. Wow. So, yeah, James played Boston, and because James played Boston, Boston was one of the few major cities that didn't burn to the ground because Dr. King was killed.
This is Matt Doherty, and you're listening to the GQ Coaches Show, the real talk in sport on ESPN Radio, 1240, The Boss.
The United States Basketball Association, the USBA, was founded in 2005. The USBA has been a leader in grassroots basketball tournaments and camps for boys and girls of all ages across the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. It is our goal to develop young people and equip them with skills that will help them advance both on and off the court. Visit their website at usbahoops.com. Their email is info@usbahoops.com or by telephone at 704-649-6812. All basketball, all the time. And thank you for playing USBA. There's a lot of reasons why people trust Chris Montgomery at Alcova Mortgage. They have a diverse lineup of loan programs. So whether you're looking to buy a home, refinance, or tackle college expenses with your equity, you can put Chris Montgomery at Alcova Mortgage in the game for you. Call 540-290-0558 or go online to alcova.com/C Montgomery.
Looking for something fun but different to do? Join a group of friends, family, or co-workers to destroy electronics, break some glass, or even throw some axes. At the Havoc House located downtown Waynesboro, Virginia, visit their website at havochouseva.com and book your appointment today.
Hey, this is Coach Mike Apple, head men's basketball coach and athletic director of Sand Hills Community College, and you're listening to the GQ Coaches Show, the real talk in sports on ESPN Radio 1240, The Boss.
All right, we're back in. This is Coach Goins along with Coach Quick and our very special guest via telephone, Mr. Joseph Wooten. Somebody says, man, why do I know that name? You heard of the Wooten brothers. His brother Victor is classified as the world's best bass player. Coach Quick, you used to have a bass guitar, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Did you
I had one and tried to pick on that thing a little bit, but I had to pass it on down to somebody else.
Okay. I didn't know if you were trying to thump that thing because I know some people in the music business. Just in case you trying to revive your skills. So with that, you know what, folks, we're so excited. It has been a 100% blast as we've been sitting here chopping it up, talking about life, talking about what you got to do, the passion and everything that makes people who they are. So as we get into the real talk, and our segment is brought to you by the United States Basketball Association. Visit their website at usbahoops.com. Coach Quick, you know what, man? I don't know about you, but this has been one awesome conversation with our great friend, Mr. Joseph Wooten. And I'll kick it to you, Coach.
Absolutely, it has. Mr. Wooten, since we're in our Real Talk segment, I just want you to take this time to reflect, since it's MLK Day, on Dr. King and the memories that you have of him.
Okay. Well, when Dr. King was around, I was obviously very young. I was born in 1961, December 15th. Now, the ironic thing, I found out December 15th is also, I was born on the 170th anniversary of the ratification of the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. I was pretty happy about that. And I don't, like, when Martin Luther King was alive, I was pretty young. But what I do remember, I've learned more about him as an adult. But what I remember when I was young, I remember that dark feeling in the house when he was killed.
Mm.
I remember that feeling distinctly, and because it was Dr. King, Bobby Kennedy, JFK, Malcolm X. Just it seemed like everybody who could make a difference was starting to go for people that were alive back then. And I remember that feeling in the house, even though I was just single digits old. As I've gotten older, like a lot of people, I've studied Dr. King, and I'm always trying to be vigilant for how to get this country past its stumbling blocks.
Mm.
And I recognize that, like what Dr. King recognized what the problem was, and the country wasn't really ready to hear it yet. But I heard a speech from him the other day, and this is one you don't hear too much. And basically what he was saying is that when black people were freed from being slaves, at the same time that the country, black people were asking for land to exercise their freedom, at the same time that it was restricting land acquisition for black folks. I mean, after slavery, after Reconstruction, they even called that the second slavery, right? Because black people were right back. They were free on paper and still back on the plantation doing what they did before. While that was happening, they were giving away land to immigrants, just literally giving it away. Move the Native Americans off the land, and the Homesteaders Act and all that kind of stuff. You just pay a fee and farm it for a few years, and it was yours. And what Dr. King was getting people to see, dangerously so, was that the freedom that we're talking about, that this country espouses, it's good to talk about freedom, but you have to see it in context. I read a quote that made a lot of sense. It said, you got to remember that freedom to the wolves is death to the sheep.
Mm.
Right? Freedom doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. When we talk about patriotism in this country, it's good to talk about patriotism, but you got to talk about it in context, because what funded patriotism was slavery. Right? That's what made, so even when Patrick Henry says, give me liberty or give me death, he's talking about liberty from England. But one of the things that they were angry about with England, they thought England was going to take away their right to own slaves. So freedom for them meant slavery for black people. Now that's not a conundrum, but that's a knot that needs to be untied as we're trying to be the people that we say we are. The good thing about the Declaration of Independence, it's written really well. That men are endowed with inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All men are created equal. Those are great precepts as words, but the implementation of those words hasn't been that. And because I would love to see the country be what it says it is, like, just be who you say you are. If all of us are created equal, if it should be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then when we see a slum, we should invest in that slum, because the slum exists there because when you were building the city, that was the only place black people were allowed to live. But let us live in the suburbs, whether we had money or not. You made us live in the center of the city. You divested from there and made sure there was no resources. That's why we say inner city. When we say the inner city, we acknowledge that we know the center part of the city is where the poor people of color are, and the resources are all out there.
Wow.
But that's not because black people went, you know what, it'd be great to live where there's no resources. It's because when they were designing our big cities, they designed them in a certain way to keep opportunity away from certain people. So for the country to be who we say we are, right? All men are created equal. We're founded off of liberty. We're founded off of personal liberty, not just liberty for the state, but personal liberty. We all want that to be true. And if we want that to be true, then we got some things to solve. One of those Every major city has a slum. It's primarily people of color. We don't want to solve it just because. I don't want to solve it just because I'm fighting for the black team. I want to solve it because there's poor immigrants in there too. There's poor white people in there too, and it keeps the country from being what it says it is. Right? I'm saying it because I love the country, not because I just want to be critical. I just want it to be I just want it to be what it's supposed to be. Otherwise, some people's freedom is at the expense of other people. Freedom for the sheep is death for the wolves. And we don't in a country that has this much resources. It doesn't have to be the case. This country doesn't have to have losers.
Looking for something fun but different to do? Join a group of friends, family, or co-workers to destroy electronics, break some glass, or even throw some axes. At the Havoc House located downtown Waynesboro, Virginia, visit their website at havochouseva.com and book your appointment today.
This is Bobby Collins, the head men's basketball coach at Shaw University. And you're listening to the GQ Coaches Show, the real talk in sports on ESPN 1240, The Boss.
Hey, this is Kenny Anderson, 5th men's basketball coach, and you're listening to GQ Coaches Show, the real talk in sports on ESPN Radio 1240, The Boss.
We know how to invest. We know how to invest in poor housing. We know how to do it. We invested in Harlem when the Clintons got ready to move there, right? If we can invest in it when they get ready to move there, we can invest in it when the Johnsons live there now. Absolutely. And we should. And there's enough people that want things to change for there to start to be able to be changed. And you feel that resistance to it. That's why you're in school. They don't want to talk about slavery because, you know what I mean? They say they don't want people to feel guilty. That's not it. It's not guilt. It's just the fact that people who see that we still are suffering the effects of it, young altruistic people will want to change it. Right? Not everybody wants that change.
Wow.
That's why it's important for the people that are good at something, athletes, musicians, people that people listen to. It's the reason why it matters what kind of person that you are. Right? It's more important than the fact that you can score a bunch of points or you can play the best song. It has to do with what you represent. Because over history, the movers of culture are the artists and the athletes. They're the movers of culture. Like, as my brother Roy would say, you know, nobody remembers who the king was when Beethoven played music or Mozart. We remember Beethoven and Mozart, right? But nobody remembers the politicians. It's the people who move culture that are remembered. So it's important. I would say, like, for an athlete, work on your craft, but work harder at who you are. My last point is, this country it's like, over the course of history, there used to be monarchies, right?
Yes, sir.
Monarchy was the king. And the monarchies had too much power centralized in one person. And when there was revolution, they wanted a republic. They wanted a society where the people chose their leaders. Popular sovereignty, they called it. Well, here we have a democratic republic, and that's good. But to keep a democratic republic from descending into mob rule, because there's violence that can be built into a republic if the people don't decide to be reasonable. In a society where the people are sovereign, it's important that the people are informed. It's on the people to be informed. It's on the people to be reasonable. Otherwise, the majority can be January 6th. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I enjoy talking to you guys because you're coaches and it comes naturally to you. I can hear it. You guys are just born leaders. But we need some leaders, right? Especially young people whose hearts are in the right place, but they don't have direction. We need good coaches. We need good examples. But to do it, it requires some things. It requires us to know some things. It requires us to have some feel for human nature. It requires us to not want to hurt each other. And those things are doable. They're even more doable when we watch somebody else do it successfully. So I appreciate what you guys do. I appreciate the opportunity you're giving me to speak. And I just want to remind you guys that what you're doing is more powerful probably than you think it is. Wow. Wow. Coach C, I'll kick it over to you.
Well, listen, folks, you know what? It has been one heck of a show. I can't thank our great friend, Mr. Joseph Wooten, Coach Quick, and everything that Mr. Wooten has laid down tonight is so timely. And as one of the hosts of the show, I can't thank him enough. We wish you continued success as you move forward with the Steve Miller Band, the Hands of Soul. Here's a quick question for you: Are you guys coming? Are you guys gonna come? Are y'all coming to Virginia? Because if you come to Virginia, Coach Quick, we're gonna load up. We're gonna go there, and we're gonna be like them little fellas wanting to meet the band.
Yes, sir. Listen, wherever I go, if I find out you're anywhere near, you got access, all right?
All right, wow.
I don't know that the Wooten brothers are coming to Virginia, but we're from Virginia, so eventually we're going to be there.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir.
Eventually we're going to be there. We grew up in Newport News, and eventually we're going to be there. When we do, you have access. You both got access.
All right.
I can promise you that.
All right. So, Coach Quick, I don't have a jet. I might have to put my name on the side of my car.
Yes,
and we'll roll in there, and I might have to don a cape like Brother Jay. But no, it has been so fantastic, and we certainly appreciate Mr. Wooten being on with us. But Coach Quick, I got to get your prediction, and I want to get Mr. Wooten's prediction for tonight's ball game. So who you taking, the Cowboys or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I got the Bucks 24-17.
All right, Mr. Wooten, who you taking tonight? Are you going to take the Buccaneers or are you going to take the Cowboys?
It's a tough one. I'm a bigger fan of Dak Prescott than I am of the Cowboys. I like Dak. I'm not that giant of a Cowboys fan. But the last game that they played in Washington, I was at that game.
Oh.
My wife works for a company that's one of their sponsors. So we were up in the box watching the game, and I just saw the Cowboys not live up to the moment. Right? So if you're asking me for a prediction, I would predict that when Tom Brady has a team's number, seldom do you break that trend. And Tom Brady has never not beaten the Cowboys. So I'm not the biggest Tom Brady fan, but if I had to predict, I would go with the Bucs. In a close game, say neither team's scoring a ton of points, so 2017.
2017. All right, Coach Quick, we got your, you know what, man, I don't have a dog in the fight, and I'm not a Brady fan, and them you know what, here you go. I'm going to jump out on, I ain't going to call it a limb. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to ride with, I'm going to take Tampa Bay, all right, and I'm going to say 21-17. Tampa Bay taking it, and we'll see. So, listen, I want to certainly thank, again, our very special guest, Mr. Joseph Wooten. Go to check his book out, right? It all matters, right? Check it out. I'll never forget. I read it. There's something in there talking about who's the best TV dad of all times, without a doubt. Is James Evans from Good Times. That's another show. If you want to call Coach Goins and debate who's the best all-time dad on TV, I'll dial it in and we'll have that show. Coach Quick, I'm going to kick it over to you, and you know where to take us.
So, Coach Goins, our very special guest, Mr. Joseph Wooten of the Hands of Soul, and also a keyboardist and vocalist for the Steve Miller Band. And for myself, Coach Quick, we'll see you in the locker room.
You have been listening to the GQ Coaches Show with Coaches G and Q, the real talk in sports, on ESPN Radio, 1240 The Boss,